Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and it's the last week of March, and I'm just out here doing some work in the garden, getting things ready for the gardening season. I'm actually planting some stuff today, but that's not what this video is about. I'm working on this bed over here, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about raised beds made from wood and maintenance over time, that sort of thing. They rot out and eventually fall apart, but there's ways, little things you can do to extend their life, get a few extra years out of them, get a little more value for your dollar. I mean, there's lots of videos and material you can read about which woods last longer and whether or not, treated lumber is a good idea, that sort of thing. That's not what I'm going to talk about here. It's all going to rot, okay, eventually. So I'm just talking about that, okay? So here we got a bed, and this was built using rough cut 2x8 years ago, over 10 years, right? So this one, what is it, 2025? Yeah, 10 years. So I've had this wood for a long time. Got two 10-footers and an 8-footer cut in half. But this is rough cut. And you can see the difference in thickness, right? This is a rough cut, 2 inches. This one over here, so use my thumb as a gauge. Okay, so that's factory milled lumber, 2x6. This is the 2x8 milled lumber. It's got an extra ½ inch, give or take. So it takes something like that a little longer to rot out, of course. And as I mentioned before, some woods rot out faster than others, just spruce. So there's nothing special about it. I find in my garden, spruce will be solid for 5 years. After 5 years, it gets progressively iffy this year. Now this one here, last year, the corners started to rot away at the bottoms. I don't know why that happens, but the very bottom of the corner was rotting out. So all I do is I got some sheet metal. I had my roof done with metal roofing. This is just left over. So I just bent this around the corner. So you can't tell, but down around here somewhere, there's actually not much wood or it's rot. And it was severely threatening the integrity of this, such that if you kneeled on the side, the whole thing would tip over. So I just tacked that on. I figured that would give me an extra couple years out of this bed. I think the whole thing took about 20 minutes. That's worth it, because lumber ain't cheap anymore. You want to hang on to your lumber as long as you can. And of course, that might beg the question, why use lumber at all for a raised bed? But that's a topic for a different video. So this little trick is a good one for, I don't know why, but these things tend to rot out at the corners, and they lose strength at the corners, and you want them to retain that strength. So just get any kind of sheet metal, anything you can find, and just bend it around like that and tack it on. I just use shingle nails there, nothing special. Okay, so this bed was done last year. It's 2025, spring 2024. This looked like it all needed to be replaced. I spent about 20 minutes tacking that on, and it's still functional. But this year, this side, you can see it's kind of wobbly and it's tilted out. Okay, it's starting to go, right? So it just doesn't have the strength to resist the weight of the soil on the inside, sort of bowing it out. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to tilt it back in using a simple little trick, okay? And I'm going to show you how I do that. And that'll probably get me another season. Last year I thought last year was the last season, but it's still sound. Another trick for extending the life of these is once you see them starting to rot on the bottom, turn them over. Right, the bottom part of the bed is in contact with the soil, so it's constantly moist, so it rots at a faster rate than the top. So, and I've done this, and I'm pretty sure I've done videos on this before, but you see the bottom of the bed starting to rot out. Before, like just at beginning stages, it's getting a little soft, just flip the whole thing upside down. And that'll get a few more years out of it, right? Because now you're putting fresher wood in contact with the ground, and that'll buy you a few more years as well. And I don't think I did that on this one. But you can see it's still holding up on the outside. But let's take this little bend. All I got to do is I've got to bend this in a little bit. And I'm being a little bit anal here, but you can see at the end here, right? You can see it's tilted a little bit. And so I wouldn't want this thing to give up midway through the season, right? This is the time of year to deal with this sort of stuff. So let me get the camera set up and Let me show you a cheap little trick for fixing this. All right, so step one, I got a lot of soil against this, pushing it out, right? So I'm just gonna very carefully pull the soil away from the wood. It takes a minute. It just needs to go in a little bit like that, right? Now I'm just going to peg this in place. That peg there. A much more substantial peg on the inside. Around the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to drive it right down until she's flush. Okay. And just drive a couple screws in there. That's it. Now it's reasonably sound. I mean, I can take this other peg here. I can add more pegs on the inside and more screws if I want. Another trick is when I driven this down, if I wanted to push it a little bit more that way, I could very easily just use a little wedge like this and just pop it in. Right, to lean it a little bit more. I do the old school medieval tricks, but that's all that's needed. So I mean, that little trick I did right there, I mean, this is pretty rotten. I can feel, you know, the outside's intact, but the inside is rotten. The last 2 inches of the inside is very rotten. So, you know, this is probably the last season for this bed, but this is all I need to do. You know, and I can just save a few bucks this year, figure it out next year, right? All these little things you do to keep your beds going, an extra season here, an extra season there, it all adds up over time. You know, if you're replacing something every 5 years, that costs more than replacing something every 10 years. That's the logic, right? Anyway, just a little video about trying to extend the life of your raised beds, get as much value out of the money you spent on that wood. Right? You bought the wood, you might as well get as much time out of it as you can. A few little tricks: reinforce the corners, flip them upside down when the bottom part starts to rot, and if they start getting warped, right, just use a couple little pegs to secure them. Add a little, I mean, normally with these here, all the strength is just coming from the corners, so the corners are under a lot of pressure, right? So adding a little peg like that can get another year out of it. Adding a peg like that when you first build the bed, if you live somewhere where you get frost every winter, it's not going to do much, right? The frost in the ground will heave that peg and tilt the thing over anyway. So, I mean, there's different rules for where you live, but if you live somewhere where the ground freezes every year, I just let them sit on top of the ground. Otherwise, you know, trying to drive pegs into the ground and thinking that's going to secure the bed, it's, generally speaking, it's not if you've got frost heaving in the ground, unless you're going down really far or pouring cement, you know, footings or something ridiculous like that. To me, there's no point, because how long did that take? A couple seconds, right? Anyway, I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Check out my weekly article at maritimegardening.substack.com. Check out my coupon, use my coupon code with Vessi Seeds at GAVS25 at vessies.com. There'll be a little thing at the end you can see. More details on that in the description box, but it's basically a coupon code for free shipping. Read the details to figure all that out. Otherwise, until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.